This was a fun project I did today. Made a couple of knives, start to finish, in just under 2 hours, as you'll see at the end. I actually did set a timer, although I don't have the timer showing in the video. Started with drilling a hole in the handle. Now, while I'm drilling this, the steel is heating in the forge. Next, I'm going to just make the faces of the handle nice and smooth, just on the sanding belt. Get rid of the saw marks. That actually makes a couple of steps later on simpler. And if I do it now, I'll do both the handle blocks. That's just little pieces of choke cherry, locally harvested. Now I'm tapping down the end of the iron bar. Well, not iron, it's steel bar. And I turn it 90 degrees. I'm actually forging a square point on the end. And then blowing some of the scale off the anvil. Just forging to a nice point, because the more forged to shape you can make it, the more efficient the use of steel. And we skip a couple of heats and now we're into flattening the tang, because I'm forging the tang first. Some people forge the blade first, some people forge the tang first. Today, I'm doing the tang. Now, I just compared it to a drawing I have on the anvil. I draw with Sharpie to give myself a general idea of what I want to make. And you'll often see me go to the anvil and compare it to the drawing to make sure I'm getting to about the size and shape I want. And that tang is about 3 1/4 to 3 1/2 inches long. Straighten things up before putting it back in the forge. Get a look at the tang. You can see how much it's been squished down from the original bar. And now I'm burning it in. I heated the tang up and I'm burning it into the hole that I drilled so that the tang actually fits that hole. I'm burning out all the material that needs to be removed. The hole that I drilled guides the tang as I burn it in, and try not to burn anything else. And then you see that nice little slot there. Next, I'm going to cut it off of the bar, leaving enough steel to make a nice blade. And I cut just a little bit further than I meant to, and you can see it right there. Yahoo! Alright, forging the blade starts by forging a point again. It's efficient. I don't have to grind the point to shape. I can just forge it down. And again, I forge a square point, and I'll come back and round off those corners once I've got it down to the shape I want. And so it becomes a round point. After that, I'll flatten the blade down. Back in the heat. And flattening that sucker right on down. There's actually a surprising amount of steel in these round bars. What I'm using is straightened coil spring for the large overhead garage door springs, not the little ones in your home garage, but the ones that you drive a semi-truck through. And we're just working that blade both sides. Still got a lot to go, still pretty thick. Hot again, hitting it some more. You can see I've got it a bit wider now. I'm working down the spine here just so that it's not all wobbly and bobbly. I want it to be hammer finished, but still a fairly smooth, straight edge on the spine. Not a wonky, wobbly shape. I'll just straighten things up before I put it back in the anvil. I don't have to go chasing straight. You can see that the edge that I just pointed at is straight. And I'm also indicating that I'm going to be thinning it a bit there at the edge. Here we go. I go right to the edge of the anvil, and I pound the edge of the knife to thin it down, and that also has the effect of spreading the metal there, bringing what was quite straight with a down curved back spine into, well, as you can see now, I've gone a little bit past straight point on center, and I'll fix that with another heat. That's not a problem. Again, it's efficient movement of steel. Sometimes I'm going back and forth chasing a straight line, but all of this is steel that's being shaped rather than ground away as you do with a bar. Now I need to get that tang in the center, and it's easy to do when it's this hot. But then, of course, it's no longer nice and straight. It gets a little wonky, And so I spend more time just tapping it nice and straight than I do actually shifting it to the center of the blade. But it doesn't take long. Forging is an enjoyable way to make a knife because you can change things as you go along. You can change your mind, and unlike grinding the blade, you can change your mind. You grind it, you can only change your mind smaller. You can't just reshape it. And now I just side along it, make sure I've got the angle I want. Back on the blade, I'm brushing it because this is sort of a finishing heat as I tap the surface, just kind of cleaning up any bobbles and bonks and big bumps. So you can see I'm using light little blows, just bouncing the hammer, trying to smooth it up as much as it's going to. It's still going to be a rough from the forge blade, but that doesn't mean it has to have huge divots taken out of it with the hammer. And I do a lot of sighting along it, make sure it's straight, and it never is quite, so I tap it again, look again. And when it's straight enough, it's back to the grinder, this time just to grind the profile so that I have nice fresh steel. There's the profile of the blade. I'm dipping it in a bucket you can't quite see, but it's a bucket full of water. Also not visible here is my safety protection. I'm wearing safety glasses, I'm wearing hearing protection, and I'm wearing lung protection, a good double cartridge filter. And I'll grind the bevels now. Is there anything more enjoyable than sparks off the blade when you're standing at the grinder? Alright, that's about enough of the grinding. It goes on for a few minutes, but you don't have to watch all of that, because now we're going to temper. Now I'm afraid that I had the camera there, but somehow didn't have the camera on when I hardened the blades. So now we're tempering. You missed the hardening stage, sorry. Heated it up until it was non-magnetic, put it into nice warm oil. For tempering, because I'm trying to do this quickly, instead of putting it in the kitchen oven for an hour, I'm putting the blade on the back of a railroad spike that has a groove cut in it. The spike was heated up red hot, and I'm watching for a pale straw yellow color at the edge of the steel. And it doesn't show on the camera, it does show on the knife. Next, I've got some actual natural pine pitch in the handle slot, and I warm the tang, but you can see I could still hold it. And then I shove it down into the pine pitch to melt it in place, and it's kind of a natural epoxy or a natural hot glue. Rough shaping on the grinder with a 60 grit belt. Eventually I went to a 220 grit belt. We don't have to watch all of the progression or all the shaping. We skip to the sandpaper, because we're going to hand sand after we've got the nice 220 belt, took out all of the nasty grinder marks from the 60 grit. Hand sand it, rub it down with some linseed oil. And then we've got a finished knife. It is 1 hour, 54 minutes, 42 seconds. And this is what the two finished knives look like. In that under 2 hours, I made both of these knives, start to finish, and they're ready to use.